Welcome to Wild Deer Convenience Store, a suspenseful audio story. Today we dive into Chapter 1, Stop at Wild Deer Town. Follow Anwei Li as she steps into a mysterious small town. Ready for the journey? Let's begin. Chapter 1, Stop at Wild Deer Town. Working out there, even if you kill yourself with exhaustion, it's pointless. Her mother's voice crackled through the car's speaker, one sentence piling onto the next. Will it get you a promotion? Make you rich? I know how it works these days. Hit 30 and your company tosses you out. There's always a line of younger people waiting to take your place. An office job sounds nice, but what's the future in it? Anwei Li turned her head to stare out the window, as if that could make her mother's words slip past her ears and vanish. She hadn't realized how hard she was pressing the accelerator, pushing the car close to 90 miles an hour. When she noticed, her heart jumped, and she eased off the pedal. Luckily, the road wound through quiet rural fields with barely another car in sight. No harm done. Why not come home and help your brother with some work? I could find you a good husband, her mother said, lost in her own plans. You think you're still young? You're almost 30. Is it even too late to settle down and have kids? What do you think? Don't you hate your job? A dense green forest whipped past the car, fading into the distance. Across the road, a large sign jutted out from a leafy path, showing a graceful deer with the words "Welcome to Wild Deer Town" beneath it. Like the trees, the sign flashed by Anwei Li's eyes. Her mother finally seemed to notice the silence on the other end, her tone sharpening. I'm talking to you. Did you hear me? Are you coming back? She'd fought so hard to get out. Going back. She'd rather throw herself into the sea. Speak up. Are you listening? Why do you get quieter the older you get? Her mother wasn't entirely wrong. Anwei Li had noticed it herself. Though she'd been quick-witted as a child, words often failed her now. Take the man on the subway, for instance. After she'd turned him down twice, his face flushed red. What's wrong with giving me your number? Who do you think you are? Asking for it means I'm doing you a favor. You're acting high and mighty. The rush of adrenaline and injustice made her ears ring. The man's venom, the silent stares from others. It was like a dirty rag stuffed in her mouth, choking her words. By the time she thought of a comeback, he'd already left the train. Or that other time. Thank you, thank you. It's for charity. A kind young woman like you, $100 isn't much, right? Just the cost of a lipstick, the man had said, hands clasped, as if her donation alone would save his cause. She'd given every excuse she could think of, but the man blocking her path kept repeating himself, as if he couldn't comprehend a refusal. When Anwei Li ran out of words, she dug into her wallet, despite never having heard of his so-called charity, just to escape. The world was full of moments that left her speechless, and they seemed to multiply with age, so many that she wondered if she was the problem. Why did everyone else seem to adapt so easily, so comfortably, while she was the only one struggling? I'm listening. Anwei Li finally managed, her voice pale and thin after a long pause. This job's actually okay. I'm just unhappy for a bit. Her mother paused, then let out a heavy sigh, dripping with disappointment. No use talking to you. You won't cry until you see the coffin. Where are you right now? Anwei Li glanced outside. The endless fields that stretched forever were gone. Of course I'm at the office, she said. I'll be back to work soon. Anyway. She sighed after hanging up. She'd meant to ask her family for help but couldn't bring herself to admit she only had enough savings for one more car payment. It was absurd, but she couldn't shake the thought that this might turn into an elopement with her car. fleeing with it before the bank could repossess it. She had no destination, and it didn't matter where she went. In that moment, Anwei Li made up her mind. She yanked the steering wheel, cutting across the road into the opposite lane. The tires screeched against the pavement, a sharp sound she'd never heard before. In the distance, the road sign she'd seen earlier grew closer, the deer and words coming into focus. She slowed down, following the arrow onto a narrow, cracked road. After a few jolts, she entered Wild Deer Town. Maybe because it was nearing dusk, the town was bathed in a soft, golden glow, as if stretched by the setting sun. Shadows sank silently between the houses. "Thank you," she murmured, stepping out of the car and patting its roof. "Thanks for the hard work." Anwei Li took a deep breath of the early autumn air, locked the car with a click, and stretched her stiff limbs. The sunset was unexpectedly vivid, like molten gold, blending with the dust of old buildings, the cracked yellow earth, and dandelion seeds floating in the air. Compared to this place, the bustling city of millions felt like another planet. It was her first time in such a remote small town. It was clearly time for school or work, yet the streets were empty. Occasionally, someone pushed open a shop door, the faint chime of a silver bell dissolving into the warm sunlight and gentle breeze. A quiet place where she could breathe. This didn't seem so bad. Spotting a convenience store, Anwei Li pushed open the door. Wherever she was headed next, she'd need food, drinks, and some emergency supplies in the car. "Welcome." A man's voice drifted lazily from behind the counter. He didn't look up, his eyes and thumb glued to his phone, where a game's tinkling music danced in the air. "Do you have a shopping basket?" Anwei Li asked, looking around but finding nothing. The man seemed surprised, as if no customer had ever asked for one. He lifted his broad, square face toward her, his small black eyes like tiny pores in his skin. "By the door over there," he said, glancing at her a few times and pointing with his chin. No wonder she couldn't find it. It was hidden so well. Anwei Li tugged a faded, white basket from a tight gap between the freezer and the wall, like she was rescuing it from a trap. Only one basket, and it looked worse for wear. This town's economy didn't seem to be thriving. There was a sense of decay everywhere. As Anwei Li stepped into the aisles with the basket, she caught sight of the clerk. He'd stopped playing his game and was leaning out from the counter, craning his neck to peer at the street outside. What was he looking at? There was nothing out there. She tossed a few essentials into the basket, her thoughts drifting. Suddenly, a voice called from inside the store. "You're not from around here, are you?" It took her a moment to realize the clerk was talking to her, but then it clicked. Her car was parked nearby. He must have seen it and figured she was an outsider. "Yeah, just passing through," she said, opening the drink cooler. "Why'd you come to Wild Deer Town?" the clerk asked bluntly. Under the gaze of those small, dark eyes, Anwei Li replied, "I liked the name, so I stopped." The clerk gave a vague chuckle. "That's it." "Yup. Are there really wild deer here?" she asked, steering the conversation elsewhere. "Huh, maybe a few decades ago, but not anymore. I've never seen one," the clerk said, then dove back into his game. Disappointing, but not surprising. The town didn't live up to its name, Anwei Li thought as she opened the cooler. To her surprise, she found her usual unsweetened black tea, the same kind she'd once thrown in her manager's face. Why unsweetened? If it had been sugary, she could have imagined her manager's embarrassment after she slammed the door and left. Everything he touched would have been sticky, impossible to wipe clean, a lingering discomfort like every day she spent at that company. On the bright side, it wasn't all bad. She'd wanted to leave for ages, but never knew where to go. Anwei Li told herself. A short pain was better than a long one. They'd given her an out. Though she hadn't pictured her next stop as standing in front of a cooler, staring blankly at a tea bottle. Can't decide what to buy? The clerk asked from across the store. Anwei Li flinched, then snapped out of it, tossing a few bottles of black tea into her basket. She realized that, despite playing his game, the clerk seemed to be keeping an eye on her. "Sorry, we don't get many outsiders here," he said with a laugh, as if noticing her reaction. Couldn't help but want to chat a bit. "It's fine," Anwei Li said, grabbing a few more items and setting the basket on the counter. As the clerk rang her up, she couldn't help asking, "Is there a hotel in town?" It'd be dark in an hour or two, and she didn't want to drive around unfamiliar backroads at night. "You're 2 years too late," the clerk said. "The only hotel closed down 2 years ago. You can tell from the state of this town. We don't get many visitors. Hope I don't have to sleep in the car tonight." The total was cheaper than she'd expected, but she'd better not shop here again. Her savings wouldn't last long, so the less she spent, the better. Next time, she'd find a discount store. After paying, Anwei Li carried the plastic bag in one hand and the basket in the other, returning it to the stack of faded baskets by the freezer. Under the clerk's gaze, she headed for the door, only then noticing a simple handwritten sign taped to it. "Hiring clerks. Generous pay, food and lodging included." Anwei Li stared at it silently for a few seconds, then turned back to the counter. The clerk, perhaps to hide his staring, had gone back to his phone, as if he wouldn't notice her approach unless she coughed. When he looked up, she pointed to the sign, trying to keep the hope and surprise out of her voice. "Are you hiring?" His small, poor-like eyes narrowed into slits as he broke into a sudden smile. "Yeah. I'd like to apply. Is that okay?" "Of course. I'm the manager here," he said, his eyes lighting up. Anwei Li hesitated, glancing around. "Do I need an interview?" "I can make the call on hiring," he said, and for some reason there was a faint, eager edge to his voice. Anwei Li almost felt that if she backed out now, he'd reach out to stop her. "No interview needed. You can start tomorrow." "How's that?" End of Chapter 1. Will Anwei Li take the job? What secrets does this town hold? Stay tuned for Chapter 2. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe.